How many times do you think you can start over in life before you finally become the person you were meant to be? We've asked ourselves that question more times than we can count. I'm Ken, and I'm here next to my beautiful wife,
Kim, and we're here today to get into a little bit of our story, a little bit of our background to let you know where we've been and how far we've come.
Yep, and I guess we have to move all the way to what? The early 2000s?
Yeah.
All right, so
I can start us off.
all right, so young Kim, early 2000s.
Woohoo!
What you got?
So early 2000s, I was married to my former husband, who is the father of my son, who will be 20 next month in like a couple weeks, actually. Because when you and I met, he was 3.
Yeah.
So,
Mhm.
but yeah, a little bit about that story. I was married to my former husband, when we weren't working out.
Uh-huh.
And I ended up leaving him, which was a very difficult time in my life. I just wasn't happy. We weren't. He's a good guy, but we just were never on the same page with what we wanted out of life. He was very focused on job, career, corporate world, which has never been for me. I wanted much different things out of life.
Right.
He always referred to me as the dreamer because I, have a entrepreneur spirit and wanted to build my own thing, whatever that looked like.
Yeah.
And so, needless to say, we could never get on the same page about that. So I saw the writing on the wall pretty early on, despite having been with him for like 8 years or so.
Yeah.
But I was young when we met, so, wasn't going to work out. So I left and was a single mother for a while. Then you and I met.
Yep. We met, that was back in 2009.
Yep. And like I said, my son at that time was around 3 years old. So,
Mhm.
and throughout the whole thing, I was severely depressed ever since I was a teenager. I struggled with clinical depression, anxiety, a lot of other things that went along with that. I was in and out of, depression for most of my life at that point, medications, different treatments, different things, therapies. And it was pretty much treatment resistant, which made it very difficult for me.
Yeah. And then you got your degree also.
Yeah. Then at the same time I was going through college when I was married and had my son, I was actually finishing up my degree.
Yeah.
I started in psychology because I knew within my heart that I wanted to help people, but I didn't know exactly what I wanted to do. And I was I was a mother and a wife and started going to school at night because I just wanted to get it done. So got my degree and then was working for my family business until my family ended up selling the business, and I stayed home for a few years to raise my son anyways. So I was kind of put my career on the back burner for the time being.
Yeah. So, and then we met.
Yep.
And
After I left, my husband and we were going through a divorce, then we met, in 2009.
2009. Yeah. So I'm from Colombia and I moved in 2009 to Connecticut. I had a call from my aunt asking me if I wanted to move to the US to finish my degree in engineering. My mom's side of the family was living in Connecticut. So she was just inviting me to, to basically move overseas, just kind of live in the US and finish my degree or so.
To the podunk town of Durham, Connecticut.
Durham, Connecticut. That's
where
right.
all the cows live.
Yeah.
From the beautiful coast of Colombia to the cow country.
Yeah, from Cartagena by the water, Colombia. And so I got a call asking, hey, do you want to finish your degree here in the US? And I said yes. I went to the embassy. I got my visa and I started working in Durham, Connecticut. In the beginning, it was really hard for me because I had a girlfriend back then in Colombia. I had a rock band and I was always into music. I always been into music.
Another dreamer, just like me.
Yeah. So when I started working in Connecticut, I was working with engineers and operators, machine operators and designers. And we were doing medical devices. And I was just so depressed, sad that I was like, this is not for me.
Mm.
I was like, what the heck am I going to do with my life? I don't even know if I want to finish my degree. I don't
Right.
even know if I want to do this anymore. So it was really hard for me in the beginning. And like you said, I used to live in a city that was near the water. And then moving to Connecticut to live in Durham was really hard for me.
Because you moved in next to the cows.
Yeah, I think that was the countryside of,
Yeah,
Connecticut or so, or the US.
it's
It
a
was,
very small town in Connecticut that's surrounded by farmland.
yeah, it was kind of hard for me in the beginning. And then we met.
Mhm.
I remember that we met. One of my friends, coworkers, invited me to a party. You were there, and then
Yeah, it's a funny story actually because I almost didn't even go into the party. Your friend, oh, you were there with your friend, and then I was with my friend who was seeing a girl who was at the party,
yeah,
and the girl called my friend and said, "Hey, you and Kim should come down to the party and hang out," or they were doing salsa or something,
yeah,
and
yeah,
I was like, "Well, that sounds fun."
yeah,
But it was like late at the end of the night and we had already been out, had a few drinks or whatever.
uh,
And by the time we get there, it was not far, but I'm already like, half asleep in the car, like, maybe I don't really want to go in. And my friend was like, no, 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 no. You wanted to come. You made me drive down
right,
here. You're going in. And I'm like, all right. So I sucked it up, had my second wind, and thank God I went in because that would have been our only time meeting.
right, right. And I was just funny because my coworker that invited me there, his brother had like a salsa studio or something, and I was really actually into rock, believe it or not,
Like
into
hardcore,
hardcore.
like screaming.
And I'm like a salsa, and I'm like, okay, and I went, and then we met there, and then actually we were dancing.
We were both dancing
Yeah, we're
salsa, which
dancing
I've
salsa,
never done in my life.
trying to dance
Trying,
salsa because
exactly.
I yeah.
Neither of us knew
No, I was
how.
trying. I was pretending, being honest with you, which is weird
You
because
fooled
again,
me.
because
I
you
didn't
might
know.
think like, oh yeah, he's from Colombia, he might know,
Yeah.
but no. But we had a good time, so we met that day, but I was very immature when we met.
And
Uh,
had a girlfriend.
then I had a girlfriend in Colombia, so it wasn't easy, the whole transition, the whole yeah, again, like you said, me being a dreamer as well,
Mm-mm.
dreaming about how am I gonna, start my music career here
Yeah.
instead of engineering
Right.
and or start a business,
Hmm.
because again, I was trying to find myself,
Yeah.
at 25
Yeah.
when I met you. I was
You just turned 26. Yeah.
26 when we met. I was very immature for a long time.
Long time.
For a long time, yeah, we had struggles.
A
I
lot of
used to,
struggles because I had my son and
yeah,
I was a single mom and I'm like, I can't I need something serious. I can't be with somebody doesn't, ready for this
yeah.
because I had to be ready.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And then we had a lot of issues, in the beginning. Again, like you had a kid, and one of the thing was like, all right, so I moved to the United States. I didn't know what to do either. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
When I met you, and I didn't know if I want to like start a new relationship or like live together or raise a kid.
Right.
Like it's just, and again, I was very immature.
Right.
I was 25, but I was probably acting like I was 19.
Yeah.
So after the time went by and we went through a lot of ups and downs.
Well, you went through a lot of moving back and forth to Columbia to Connecticut,
Yeah, I moved back to
breaking
Colombia.
my heart.
Well, I went back to Colombia a few times or so, and I was like, I was in a friggin' limbo.
And you kept me in a limbo.
Yeah, so it was just really bad. But then, so after we went through all the issues that we had after going back and forth to Colombia and actually growing up, finally for me,
Yeah.
growing up and making a commitment to, okay, I want us to be together.
Hmm.
We decided that we wanted to start a business together.
Yeah.
I'm always been business oriented. You were as well. And we
Yeah.
wanted to start a business. We didn't know back then what. We came across to this restaurant opportunity that we bought. And
Unfortunately.
yeah, it was crazy.
No, I say unfortunately because it was an expensive learning experience, but I don't regret it because we needed that experience to figure out what we didn't want.
Yeah, exactly. So it was an opportunity back then that was, I think, 2014 that we were just kind of looking online. Hey, we need to start something.
Yeah, we were
We-
looking at all types of businesses.
all type, yeah. And then we said, okay, yeah, I guess this is it. We negotiated with the owner. We bought it. After a year or two, we bought a second location, but it was a freaking fiasco.
Yeah,
The whole thing.
they were both failing restaurants, locations, and we, after doing our due diligence, decided that we would be able to revive them to their once flourishing
Yeah.
restaurants that they were. We thought that we could revive them, but times had changed, locations had changed, one of them. Other businesses had come in, different things.
One thing I learned was that if the business is not working, it's not making money. That's the way I see it now because I didn't know back then. I don't even want to entertain the idea.
Oh, no, absolutely. That was the biggest mistake up front.
If you think that
You don't buy a failing business.
never, ever, ever, for whoever is listening,
Yeah.
don't ever buy a failing business.
Thinking that you can do
You're going to
something
revive
better.
it. No, it's not going to work out.
No.
It's not going to work out.
I mean, I'm sure there are instances where
Unless
that can work out, but
unless you're like a bar rescue type.
yeah, well, unless you have massive amounts of cash to inject into
Like
it,
if
which
you're
we
a
didn't.
professional, yeah. If you're a professional, if you know what you're doing, but it's just, I won't entertain an idea.
No, never again.
If the business is not making money, I won't even entertain the idea.
No. And after we bought those restaurants, we're running them for a while. We had our daughter in 2016. We got married then, 7 years after we got together.
Yeah, right. Right. Yeah, we had a beautiful daughter. She's 10 now.
Yep, just turned 10.
Mm-hmm.
After we had our daughter, we decided that we needed to build a better life because we were struggling financially from the restaurants.
Uh-huh.
And that's when you said to me, like, I can't live here anymore. I cannot live in Connecticut anymore. And
Yeah.
I was like, what the heck do you want me to do? I have a son here. He's, very close with his father. We shared 50-50 custody. And it wasn't an option for me to pick up my life and just move because I didn't think that my son's father was going to let me do that. But you were adamant about it. You were just miserable. And so I decided, like, I have to do something. If we want to improve our family's life, then we need to figure this out. So I talked to my ex-husband and told him he knew the whole story of what was going on with the restaurants and how much financial debt we were in and how much we were struggling. And he knew the whole thing. And he's a good guy. And not easily. It wasn't like, yeah, sure, go ahead and go do that. It was like a year of convincing him that I needed this and it would be the best thing for me and my son. And, of course, he wanted the best for me because that made me a better mother.
Yeah.
And of course, his son was his number one priority. And although that put a strain on their relationship, not a strain, but it was a distance.
Made it difficult.
Yeah, it made it difficult because we ended up moving to Arizona where my mother was living, and she was encouraging me to move here because she could help us rebuild.
Yeah.
And that was probably one of the most difficult parts of my life. Well, it was one of the most difficult parts of my life was moving my son away from his father. It was the best choice for everyone involved, even my son, who, we moved here when he was 12, but he wasn't building a life in Connecticut either. He didn't have good friends. He didn't have nothing. He really didn't have anything. We lived in a small condo. He just didn't have anything going for him. It's not like he had this great life that I was taking him from.
Yeah.
We didn't have any opportunities, nothing. We just wanted to get out of there. So that's when we made the difficult decision to move. So when we decided that, yes, we're going to move, I talked to my son's father. It took him about a year to come around to the idea and be okay with it. And within that year, we had to sell 2 failing restaurants, which was a chore in itself. We had to sell our condo, which was also a chore because the market was not good.
Yeah.
And, we had to uproot my son's life. I had to disturb his father's relationship with him. I had to We had our daughter that we had to move, and somehow managed to move across the country to Arizona.
Yep.
So it was a really challenging, difficult road to get here, but we knew it was necessary, and it was either stay there and struggle and kind of be miserable or start fresh and rebuild.
Right.
And as scary as it was and as inconvenient as it was for the people around us, both of our families lived in Connecticut. Although I had my mom here in Arizona, I had other family in Connecticut. You had your whole family in Connecticut and my son's family in Connecticut. As scary as it was, we managed to,
get it done. Yeah.
yeah.
And it wasn't easy because it took us a whole year for us to sell the restaurants, sell the condo,
Mhm.
move to Arizona. So it wasn't just like that, like, oh yeah, let's go.
Right.
No, it took a lot of preparation,
A lot of
mentally,
planning.
a lot of planning. I remember that we used to take our daughter in her stroller,
Mhm.
walk around the neighborhood,
Yeah.
and thinking and planning how to do the move.
Yeah.
So
Like,
we,
and struggling, thinking, is this going to work?
yeah, how are we gonna do it?
Yeah.
Because it can require so many things, money,
A lot of moving parts
a lot of moving parts
that we're just so unsure of.
Mhm.
But we stuck to the belief
Mhm.
that this was going to work
How
out.
it's gonna work out, and it was really hard. Like, how can you see,
Right.
right? How can you project that?
Right.
Like the restaurants are in between.
Yeah.
That is not like something that you sell that easily, and that
Right.
we're failing. And our condo, and like, all right, even if we move, we have so much debt.
Yep.
Like, was really, really hard. But
Couple $100,000 worth of debt at that point.
Yep.
Yeah.
Like, what are we gonna do?
And
How
so
are
it
we gonna
wasn't
do this?
right. So it wasn't like we had all this cash, just like, oh, screw it, whatever. We'll just get up and go and do it. It was a lot of planning, a lot of blind faith that the plan was going to work out how it needed to work out.
So if you think about it, I didn't finish my degree in engineering.
Right.
I was still thinking in the back of my head about music.
Mm-hmm.
You got your degree in public administration,
Yeah.
and you had the student loan.
Still have the student
Yeah.
loans.
And we were like, how the heck are we going to do this?
Right. Yeah.
But we managed and we did it. We moved to Arizona. We're here now. We're happy. But then when we moved, of course, it wasn't easy in the beginning. We moved with your mom. We stayed there for 8 months or so.
6. Yeah. Well, no, 8. You're right.
6 to 8
Maybe,
months.
whatever.
And then our engine was still running like, hey, we need to start something.
Yeah. What are we gonna do?
What's next?
What's next? How can we get a house with 200,000 or so in debt? How can we get a nice house for our family? We didn't want to move here and move into a small little condo again that nobody fit in, that we had outgrown.
Yeah. No, we have big dreams. We knew what we wanted.
We weren't going to go backwards.
We always been like, I have this big vision.
Yeah.
We always shared that. So, and then we were like, all right, what can we do?
Right.
And then you decided to get your real estate license. We were kind of thinking to flipping some homes.
Yeah. Well, when we did move here, when we were running the restaurants, Ken was running the restaurants during the day. I still had my daytime job because I was kind of the breadwinner at that time.
Yeah.
And I was funding through my job our household and our payroll, and the lack of whatever the restaurants weren't making, I was funding with my paycheck.
Yeah, and I was working 7 days a week.
Yep. And then I was too, because I was out there on the weekends with you, when we had our daughter, then I started going less. But yeah, I was working 7 days a week at nights, on weekends. We were exhausted. We were stressed out, all that stuff. Then when we finally moved to Arizona, I was still working for my company, but remotely in Connecticut, but they were going through a closing. They were closing.
Yeah.
They were going out of business. So I knew that was coming down the pipeline rather quickly. They went out of business within a year of us moving here. I think I worked remotely for about a year.
Yeah.
And it was good money. It was decent money and 100%
benefits.
Paid healthcare. Yeah.
Yeah.
So that was really held us over well. You could get a job. But then when we get here to Arizona, you're looking for a job and you're stuck again, because now you have to go into another job that you don't love.
Yeah. And that wasn't the plan.
It was the plan to get us to rebuild. It was a stepping stone, but it's not our life plan.
Exactly. That's what I meant.
Yeah.
Exactly. Like I said, you got your real estate license, thinking, all right, what about if we flip some homes, if
Mhm.
we kind of fix them up and blah, blah, blah. We kind of thought to do that. It
Yeah.
wasn't easy because there
Yeah.
was a lot of competitors or a lot of buyers. But again, and then we thought, so we didn't go that route. And then we started e-commerce. And I forgot to actually mention that we started a Shopify or drop shipping back in Connecticut before we
Yeah.
moved.
Yes, we
Yeah,
did.
we did a little bit about that also. That didn't really work out. We started selling products online, but we didn't like the business model. And then we're like, okay, this is not for us.
Yeah. Shut it down.
They shut it down, the drop shipping. But then we went back again in Arizona doing e-commerce.
Mhm.
And that's what we do now.
We started an e-commerce business in 2019, and then all of a sudden 2020 hit right when we were trying to really get into it, but kind of worked out to our benefit because people started doing a lot more online shopping.
Yep.
So that's when we were able to grow our business a little bit, but we didn't know exactly what we were doing, so we had a lot of issues with that as well. And as you know, we were still carrying all of that debt from the restaurants in Connecticut, trying to manage that. We had moved out of my mother's house and bought our own house. So now we had this new household bills. We had the restaurant debt we were paying off. We were trying to start a new business. And then I lost my job
Yeah.
all within a very short period of time. I lost my job right before COVID hit, so that income stopped.
Yeah.
I
But
was
then when COVID hit,
Mhm.
I remember when the news published about that we're in a pandemic,
Yeah.
our sales skyrocketed.
Yeah. But we still didn't know what we were doing, and
No,
we
we didn't
didn't
know.
have anything in place,
No idea.
and
We
so
were
we were
just
still, like, losing a ton of money,
losing. Yes, yes.
and we didn't have a ton of money to lose.
No, 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 exactly. Then, yeah, our sales went up, our sales increased,
Mhm.
and then we saw it as an opportunity. And then we continued grinding e-commerce.
Mhm.
I think I said in a previous episode that we're just building pallets from home.
Yeah.
And it was crazy. I was breaking my back.
All while you were working full time.
Yeah, I got a job here in Arizona. And then right after work, I'll just go home and start packing and sending stuff to the warehouses. So
It was a lot of time-consuming
a lot of
prep
time-consuming.
work.
Oh,
To get the orders ready.
Yep.
We're talking like thousands of items that all needed to be
yeah,
packaged, labeled, bagged, bubble wrapped, whatever the item was, and then packed in a box and put on a pallet,
yeah.
shrink wrapped. We'd have a 18-wheeler come and pick these large pallets up out of our garage.
And I'm calling these companies just to the logistics to see when are they going to show up.
Yep.
And all this kind of, again, we're living in a residential neighborhood.
Right.
And no one was expecting to have this 18-wheeler,
Yes, I know.
to pick up those pallets. But, we were doing the work. We're kind of planning to open a warehouse at some point. And then we're like, no, I guess we're not going to go that route. We don't want employees.
Yeah.
We don't want any rent again.
Right.
And, all that. So we decided that, hey, no, I guess that's not going to be it.
Right.
And then, but we're still doing e-commerce. Again,
we scaled back that business because
Mhm.
part of it was failing miserably because margins were so low and we just couldn't find any suppliers.
Yeah.
The supply chain was getting ridiculous with COVID. That happened. We couldn't get so much stuff that we needed.
Yeah, it was very challenging.
It was challenging and very slim margins, especially for the way we were doing it.
Yeah.
I know that people are very successful doing it, but
Mhm.
not the way we were doing it out of our house, which was very limiting. But we didn't want to build a business and have the same mistakes made again, where we were tied into a location,
Mhm.
tied into employees, tied into rent on a
Yeah.
warehouse, something like that. We didn't want to make those same mistakes. We already learned that lesson the first time, and we already learned that we don't want that out of life. We wanted to build something that was location independent, so we had time freedom. We were able to travel when we want and build a life on our own terms and do what we wanted. So
Yeah.
we kind of scaled that back, and so now we have a portion of that business still running that's
Yeah.
a little bit different than
When
you
we
know,
started.
yeah, than how we started.
Yeah. And then, so as we were just navigating this e-commerce, we thought, hey, you know what? This is a lot of work.
Yeah.
I'm breaking my back.
In
in
the
the
garage.
garage. I'm
Packing
like
pallets.
packing pallets, wrapping them,
Lifting.
palletizing. I'm just like, yeah, lifting. I'm like, oh my God, no, this is too much. We found an opportunity online where someone will build a store for you.
Yeah.
And we thought, okay, wait a minute, let's check it out. So
Yeah.
we started watching videos about the strategies and about the business model. And then we thought, hey, you know what? I guess this is it.
Yeah.
This makes more sense.
We were excited.
We were excited. So, and then we had some cash in the bank and then we deployed the money.
We had very little cash in the bank. It was
Yeah.
like the last cash
The
we
last
had in
cash
the
we had in the
bank.
bank.
And in
Yeah.
fact, we didn't have enough cash in the bank and we had to bring in a partner,
Yeah.
a friend that we
I
met here in
I had
Arizona.
some stocks and I had to
Yep,
sell
cash
them
them
all,
out.
cash them all out. And I was like, all right, so they just, and then I think it was like 15, 20,000, I don't recall.
We were 20,000 in and our partner was 20,000 in.
Yeah. So
That we had to hand over upfront.
upfront, yeah, just for them to build.
Just to build the investment for us, the store.
Guess what? Not even a year. They just sent
This was all during COVID, by the way.
Yeah. And then a year after or so, they say, hey, we're going bankrupt.
Yep.
And we lost the money.
We lost even more money.
More money. And they're now, what the heck are we going to do?
Yep.
So, yeah, that's another story there. So we lost money.
We lost 20,000 there. We lost also when we sold the restaurants. We sold one of the restaurants. We sold them to two separate buyers. One of the buyers, we financed part of the transaction for them.
It was 27,000, I think.
27,000 they owed us. And when we finally moved to Arizona, they were like, "Oh, by the way, I'm going out of business."
Yeah.
Like a few months in, I don't even know how many months he had
6
it.
months.
6 months in,
or so.
he was doing a full build out and barely opened his doors before he couldn't continue paying rent. And he said, "Sorry, I'm going out of business. So that 27,000 I owed you, don't count on it."
We didn't even see a penny.
Never saw a dime.
Yep. So now we lost that money. We brought so much debt from Connecticut. And then when we kind of started rebuilding, we lost money again with that investment.
Yep.
And here we are in Arizona.
Like boom, boom, boom.
Yep. We're still
knocked
rebuilding.
down, getting knocked down,
We're
getting
still
knocked
rebuilding.
down.
And then recently, 2 months ago, I lost my job.
Not even 2 months ago.
Not even 2 months ago. I lost my job.
So here we are again.
Trying
to rebuild once again.
To rebuild once again. But, it seems like an interesting story. It is an interesting story. But we have accomplished so many things.
Yeah. We have learned so many things.
Yeah, so many things. So we have a beautiful family. Our kids are thriving. They're healthy. We are healthy.
We have a great marriage.
We don't have that much debt anymore. We have a beautiful house.
Beautiful family.
Beautiful
life.
Beautiful dogs that they were barking a minute ago, and I have to yell at them. So, yeah. So
beautiful weather.
Yeah. Except summer.
Yeah.
But we go to Connecticut at least one time a year to visit our parents. We are still building.
We're rebuilding again. Here we are. In the depths of it again.
Yeah. So, but we're happy. Believe it or not, we're happy after all these losses. They're just lesson to us.
Right.
They're just lesson to us, and then that's why we decided, hey, we need to get some microphones and kind of put our life out there. And because I know this is going to resonate with so many people that they are trying to rebuild, and or they think, oh man, shit always happens to me.
Yeah.
Like, no, things happen, but you have to pick yourself up and make things work. And we've been doing this work for 10 years?
Yeah, you have to look at, that mindset of, oh, shit happens to me. You have to look at it as like, no, this is happening for me.
Yeah.
And that's how we're choosing to look at Ken's job loss is this is happening for us because we know that he was not happy in that job. He was stressed out, miserable. The work was okay, and he liked some of the people that he worked with, but we know that that's not our ultimate goal in life is for him to work a job. It is for us to build something that's more meaningful, more impactful, more soul fulfilling. That's our dream. That's our goal.
Yep. Absolutely, Kim. And again, we came along like it's just crazy. Now, again, like as we're recording, I have to like stop a few times because so many things happen. And
Yeah.
we skip so many things.
Yeah. In
Not all
between.
in between, not all bad things,
Hmm.
because we manifested a lot of things
Right.
that what we have right now.
Yes.
Now we are like summarizing our life,
Hmm.
and we manifested so many good things.
Yeah.
Good things. Things bad happen, but something good happened right after.
Right.
Something bad happened,
Yeah.
and then something good happened right after.
Hmm.
So it's just like we are just rebuilding your kind of, tuning this guitar.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? You're tuning your life to kind of find where you want to go.
Yeah.
And we've been doing that again for a long time. And here we are recording our life, and we're excited.
Yeah.
We get up in the morning. You exercise more than me. We do yoga sometimes. We try to do a few things here and there to kind of keep us, motivated. We do a lot of meditation to set up the day. And there's some other episodes that we talk about what we do, how we make things work,
Yes.
to,
We share a lot of those tools.
to how to overcome things
Yeah.
in life because they're just events. That's why we see it.
Yeah.
We talk about it. Sometimes we're in the backyard or in the pool or in the living room or in the kitchen. We just talk about they're all just event.
Right.
We get sad or we kind of down spiral for a minute, but then or you pick me up or I pick you up.
Hmm.
We're going to be okay.
Yeah.
We're going to be okay. And guess what? We're okay.
Yeah. We're more than okay.
We're more than okay.
And
It
and
is just,
the thing you kind of skipped over about this was we didn't just start with this mindset because as I mentioned in the beginning, I had very bad clinical depression for most of my life, and I get into that story in future episodes. Some really interesting how I worked through all of that. And really important for anybody who's listening who struggles with any of that. I get into that in further detail of what that looked like. But this wasn't always our positive mindset and our positive outlook on these events. Of
Yeah.
course, we struggled like deeply. I had the clinical depression. You had very much situational and seasonal depression at times. And we always had to work through that. And now we have found tools and things that work for us in order for us to be in the mindset that we're in.
Yep. Absolutely.
And I, said in other episodes as well that I struggled to get out of bed most mornings, a lot of the time in my life, a good chunk of my life. I struggled to get out of bed and never thought it was available to me to get out of bed and look forward to the day and enjoy my life and be like, wow, this is my life.
Yeah.
But that's where I'm at. And I know that's where you're at.
Yeah.
And so that's why we want to be here with you, sharing our story, and hopefully you can resonate with our story, and hopefully you can learn some tools that will work for you to help you rebuild your life when you have those downward moments, downward spirals, because we want to be there to help pick you up. That's our goal.
Yeah, we're gonna lift you up, definitely. Guys, again, we just sometimes get so overwhelmed that we don't know what to do.
Right.
And we're just gonna down spiral. Like, what the heck is going on?
Yeah.
I mean, we just get sad and then you don't know what to do. You feel stuck.
Yeah.
And then like when nothing is working out. Everything is mindset. Again, in other episodes, we talk about this. Today, we wanted to put our story so you guys can see who we are. We're just a nice couple that had tons of experiences out there, good and bad, but we take the best of it every single time. So again,
we take the lessons.
Yep, we do. So again, this is a Ken and Kim podcast. We will continue sharing more content, more episodes for you to enjoy and for you to navigate life with us.
Yeah, follow along so we can share our story with you and the tools that help us, and so we can help you rebuild right alongside with us.
That's right. All right, we'll see you the next time.
All right, bye.
Bye.
Hey there. If you like this episode, please like, share, and join our community. And check out our website at kenandkimpodcast.com for free tools and resources. We'll talk to you next time.